There's really been such a stark contrast between the help pouring into Turkey now compared with Syria. Is that going to change?
I mean, we certainly hope so, and we're advocating for it to be so. I mean, Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières has been working in Syria for over a decade now, since the war erupted, and what they've been through is tragedy upon emergency upon crisis. I mean, we have a cholera outbreak that started last September and still hasn't completely abated, and now, of course, the earthquake. And we are not seeing increasing humanitarian aid coming across the border with Turkey.
Are you depending on the people that you have on the ground already to do what they can?
We have the 500 staff, as I mentioned. Those are predominantly locally hired team members, and they are doing amazing work in what are really harrowing conditions. 2 of our staff were killed after the earthquake. We have numerous staff telling us that family members and friends have died, and yet they're carrying out our emergency medical activities to the best of their abilities, despite the fact that most of the clinics and hospitals that we work out of in the Idlib area have been pretty much leveled. And so we're trying to build capacity to take on patients, bring in surgical trauma kits, and essentially build tent hospitals where it's necessary to be able to provide patients with care.
How difficult is it to relocate people to where it is needed most from those areas that are functioning at some level?
It's incredibly challenging. I mean, within the area that we're working in northwest Syria, there's such devastation to the infrastructure over the last decade. And then, of course, you have the latest earthquake. And so moving people about is very challenging. So access to healthcare is one of the biggest challenges that we have. So some of our priorities now are making sure that our mobile clinics are up and running so that we can reach people where they are, and making sure that ambulances are running so that people can get what is standard care. I mean, a woman giving birth might need a cesarean section, and we have to make sure that she's able to get to where she needs to go to get that care, in addition to all of the traumatic injuries suffered from the earthquake.
You know, it seems as if there's almost a political situation being taken advantage of. The world, we know the conditions in Syria have just been horrendous over the last 10 to 12 years. But, you know, what could be done to ease up aid flowing through? Why is it, do you feel, that the world is sort of not paying attention to people who are literally with their hands trying to rescue people at the moment?
Yeah, we're seeing those images coming out of our projects as well. And there's a huge contrast between the mobilization in Turkey and just across the border in Syria. And so the most important thing is that the access corridors are open into Syria. There's one particular corridor called Bab al-Hawa, which the United Nations called for that and for other corridors to be open to get the humanitarian convoys into Syria that actually need to come. Bab al-Hawa closed for 3 days after the earthquake, and it didn't open for, for those 3 days, and then it's only been open for 4 days now. And humanitarian organizations like ourselves were digging into emergency stock. And while that's there for this very purpose, it's not going to last forever. So we really need to hasten the supply.
What are, you talked about that cholera outbreak. What are the longer term impacts of an earthquake like this in terms of health?
Yep, so we've got the immediate emergency response, which is just construction and making sure that people have, access to trauma care. The secondary is making sure that those who are displaced have sanitation and water available to them. I mean, as you said, there's a cholera outbreak, and without clean water provided to them, we will see another spike in cholera or another disease, no doubt. And in the longer term, it's making sure that people's daily medical needs are met. If you have diabetes, for instance, you can't be cut off from your medicine for a long period of time. And then there's just the mental health impacts, the trauma that folks have been through and the mental health support that they're going to need for a very long time. And that's everyone from very small children, of course, to adults.
Yeah. You know, we see scenes of many Australians trying to assist by sending clothing and supplies to this part of the region. Is that really the best way to help in these moments?
I think what you have to think about when you're looking to help in these moments is who's on the ground already providing assistance, because getting anything into Syria or Turkey right now, if you're not a part of sort of the official aid response, is going to be next to impossible. And so I would look to organizations that are already working, that are doing the work, organizations like ourselves. We've worked in the midst of the Pakistan earthquake, the Haiti earthquake, Nepal, and now this. Organizations like Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières know how to move goods in, get the supplies in that are necessary, and get the job done, hopefully, as much as we can.
So sometimes a money donation is better than necessarily goods to any organisation like yours and others.
Absolutely. I mean, what we're seeing now coming out of the operational budget, it's going to be tens and tens of millions of dollars. And so if people want to support Doctors Without Borders with a donation to the Turkey and Syria response, they can certainly do that on our website, which is msf.org.au.